All right, welcome in everyone to the latest installment in our housing internship program webinar series. My name is Spencer Giese. I am our educational program manager at ACUHO-I. I also have the honor and privilege to oversee our housing internship program. I believe this is year 7 I've done this, so I've been thrilled to watch so many folks get some of their first opportunities on a different campus and really turn that into a building block in their career. Today's session is all for candidates. So if you're in a Zoom room right now, I hope that you are a candidate who's excited about some potential internships that are just a few months away. This is really a session focused on helping you really represent yourself the best throughout the program. And I'm just letting some folks in the waiting room. So really our goals for today's session, we're going to go over the timeline of where we're at in the program right now and give you a few program updates. And then I'm going to pass it over to our panel to share some tips and advice for you when it comes to being an intern candidate in the program and how to do your very best. Also, as a disclaimer, if you have friends or you who are missing this webinar, or you would like to pass it or you'd like to view it again in the future, we're going to be posting this on YouTube tomorrow, and we'll have this on the internship webpage as well. So just know if you miss something, you can come back to it. So exciting times. By the end of today's webinar, the application review period will have begun. And at that point, all those host candidates in our program will be able to see the applications that have come in. Prior to today, they've just kind of been hanging those applications just been hanging out in purgatory, waiting for the day where they could finally be viewed. And I'll tell you right now, we have 202 positions posted in the system, and we have 565 total openings. So we have way over 500 possible internships for you to choose from this year. I mean this kindly. If you've got the time to be an intern and you've got the interest to be an intern, there's an internship out there for you. One of the biggest conflicts you might run into is just finding internships that work out with the times that you have available in those summer months. But we're rooting for you. There are opportunities aplenty for you as intern candidates. You should also start to hear from hosts that are reviewing your applications. Be mindful. They're first able to look at your application today. So you probably won't hear back today regarding your application, but I would say by the end of the week, you can expect to probably start to hear some chatter from our host sites. We also have a host webinar this afternoon in a couple hours where we'll be connecting with them and helping them with some tips for how they can do their best in the process as well. Interviews can begin in the program a week from today, starting on January 31st. And then interviews go from the end of January all through February, some into the beginning of March, as we get to our offer period beginning. So just know that on March 4th, that Monday, March 4th, that is our big offer day. That's going to be the really exciting time to be in the program and to have your phone and email available to see what you might be hearing. Will every position be offered on March 4th? No, I'm sure there'll be some that maybe the next day, maybe the day after that. So just be mindful. Not every offer comes in immediately, and it's a rolling process for all these postings. So if they have one position opening, they can only offer one position. If that person turns them down, they'll go to the next candidate. But you don't need to hear tips from me when we've got an outstanding panel to talk to you all about the internship program moving forward, as we're now in visibility and interviews are around the corner. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to John to introduce himself and then our panelists. So John, take it away.
Hi, folks. My name is John Moore. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I am a residence director at Ohio University. This is my second year a part of the ACUHO-I housing internship program, so I'm happy to be here with you all today. I will be hosting the panel section of today's webinar, and I am going to let our fantastic panelists introduce themselves. I will let Rose introduce herself first, and then if you could just popcorn it over to the next person, that would be great.
For sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Rose Mahoney. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from the University of Massachusetts Lowell, and this is my second year hosting a ACUHO-I intern. So we're very excited to be able to chat with you today. So thank you so much. And I'll pass it over to the next person I see, Justin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Justin Cottrell. I use he, him pronouns. I am an assistant director at Columbia University. Excuse me, of course, the moment I need to speak, my throat doesn't want to cooperate. Lorena, my colleague, is currently judging me. This is coming up in my performance review. This is going to be our third year working with the ACUHO-I program. We're very excited. We've had great experiences. I'm very happy to be here for you today. So I will pass it off to Lorena.
Thank you, Justin. He always brings up the energy in the office, which is great to have him around. So Lorena Porosco here in housing. I oversee the assignments in the conference housing team. This will be our third year with the program, with the ACUHO-I program. And yeah, we look forward to having you all, apply and review the applications and just give you some tips today. I'm not sure if there's anyone else as a panelist.
That is all of our panelists, just the three of you all. And we will go ahead and jump into our questions for today. I don't know if I have host access, if that lets me change the PowerPoint or not, but maybe, there we go, perfect. So we'll start with our first question, and I believe we touched on this a little bit, but what has your experience been with the ACUHO-I internships overall? And we will start with Justin.
We are, for this team, we're entering our third year hosting ACUHO-I. ACUHO-I has been with Columbia for quite some time. There are actually people who were ACUHO-I interns that were then hired as part of the team. So there's a long history. And overall, it's been pretty great. I'll speak for me, but one of the things we really enjoy is being able to bring people from different backgrounds, different expectations, really kind of looking for new experiences and different challenges to come here, be able to learn. We try to create a great environment for that where we really challenge the students to understand, we operate very differently from other universities. How do we work? How do we still manage to host students? And we just try to provide the space and time for them to be able to really dive into that. And it's fantastic seeing the growth over the summer months.
Perfect, thank you. Rose, would you like to go next?
Sure. And I also realized I didn't say my position. I'm just so excited to be here. I just zoomed right over that. So I'm actually the interim associate director for residential education at UMass Lowell, as well as the assistant director for living learning communities. So I'm doing double role right now. But the best part last year about the internship was not only being able to have somebody come in and do this work for us, but for us to learn from them and see how this partnership could really help each other. So through professional development that we provided with these folks, and then the opportunities that they gave us and the things that they developed, that was really an awesome experience. To this day, I still talk to all of our interns. Actually, the one I worked with last year just visited me a couple weeks ago. So we've really created a great connection and bond in addition to just the job, but further on into their professional development. So overall, it's been a great experience. And again, we tailor our experience to what our intern is also looking for. So yeah, we might have a job description of what we're looking for, but we really adapt to especially what you want to learn and what you want to explore in your future career.
Perfect, thank you so much. And then Lorena, if you'd like to go next.
Sure. So my experience, I think I'm going to mimic a lot of the things that have been said already by Justin and Rose. But personally, at Columbia, we're a little bit different, right? The Rest Life group is separate from the housing group. So in here at Columbia, we do the operations, we do the housing, the operations, the facilities portion of things. So what we realize is the ACUHO-I program does have a lot of interns that come from with Rest Life backgrounds, which give us a different set of eyes, a different set of ideas coming our way that we typically don't have during the academic year because we have a Rest Life team that does the Rest Life job. So that is separate from us. So to have that within our area and to learn from them, their activities, what it is they do, it has been really helpful, and it has allowed us to grow and just really learn a different different way of doing things. So that's, for me, has been the best part of the experience.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and jump into our next question. For the position you are hosting or have hosted in the past, what were you looking for from candidates? Lorena, would you like to start us off?
Sure. And for me, this goes to anybody that comes into Columbia Housing, the intention. The intention is very important for me. Everyone that comes in has to come in with the right intention. You have to come in with intention that you're going to be present here because there are things that happen. We will provide as much guidance as we can. The training, it'll be a quick, fast training because the conferences and summer operations happen as soon as everybody comes in. I just heard an analogy that a couple weeks ago that it hit me in a way that I'm just saying it more often now. But summer here at Columbia, at least, is like trying to change the tire when the car is moving. So that's how it feels. You're trying to do something, but something else is already happening. Something else, you just need to be ready. You need to have the intention. When we hire the ACUHO-I interns, they will be in communication with with the conference group. They will be in communication with some of our partners here at Columbia. So we want that intention to be the right intention, right? The intention is always to do the right thing. The intention is to be proactive. The intention is to see that something is happening, and if you're able to fix it, then fix it. If you're not able to, then bring it up to somebody that can. So just having that ability to be present and have the right intention, for me, is what I look for to anyone that joins our team.
Thank you. Justin?
Yeah, and just to kind of just to build off of that, we're obviously based in the city of New York, and one of the things that I would always that I do listen for in interviews is, obviously, did the candidate research this position? Did they research us? Because it's not easy to find out on the website how we're different from other universities. So we always kind of dive into that during the interviews just to make sure that candidates feel comfortable, that they don't feel like they're going to show up to a completely different environment than what they were believe they were interviewing for. And the second thing of that is, because we're in New York, it's also about, hearing that the time here will be enjoyed. Because we really want to bring candidates here who want to learn something different about a housing environment. As Lorena said, we're heavily operations focused. But at the same time, how will you enjoy your time here? There's obviously a million things to do here, a million places to go. And one of the things I love hearing from candidates is, what do they plan to do if offered the position during their summer here? Work-life balance is important for us. And so obviously we're checking to see if you can do the work, if you're going to show up every day with, as Lorena said, full intention to do the job to the best of your ability, but then are you going to enjoy your time here? And so that's me. And I think that's enough talking for me.
Rose?
I know, Justin, you just cut yourself off, but building off of what you and Lorena said, that's all true, right? And so it's all of those pieces of what they said. So with UMass Lowell, we have 3 different positions. We are the Office of Residence Life, but we have a residential education side, and then we have a housing side. So we're pretty similar, I think, to what Lorena was saying. And we have 3 different positions. We have 2 to 3 roles for our housing ops intern position. We have an academic initiatives position, which focuses on assessment and those pieces. And then we have a leadership, which focuses on DEI, RHA, and NRHH. So we have 3 different roles, but overall, basically what we're looking for is everything that Justin and Lorena said. And in addition to that, it's just someone that's willing to be open-minded and be ready for a challenge and something different. So we're not trying to give you the same exact experience at the places you've been. We want to take the experiences you've had, learn from them ourselves, and then see how we can additionally supplement and add to your experiences. So, having that open mind to learn something different or come about something in a different way, or just really kind of immerse you in different areas and aspects that you might not have had beforehand. We really want to diversify your portfolio. And so that's what we're looking for, is just folks that are open-minded, and then obviously some advocacy skills. So if there's something that you really don't like, we want you to vocalize that for us. So all of those things that everyone said on top of those pieces. So
Perfect. Thank you all. So our next question that we have today are, what are your best tips for candidates going through the interview process? And Justin, we will start with you.
Best tips, show up prepared, do research about the institution, look into the people behind it. Not saying that if I'm sitting in an interview with you, please show up having memorized my bio. It would lead to a very different conversation. But what I am saying though is just understanding, if in our sake, if you're interviewing with us because you really want this position, if you show up having done the research and your questions for us feel more informed, it will really kind of give you that leg up because because our goal is, as Lorena said, it is kind of a quick training period, and we will obviously hold your hand the entire way. But as she was kind of saying, I'm going to point back to it. Is just kind of that intention and just feeling like when you show up for work, you're there for it. And so just showing up to the interview prepared, in a quiet environment, make sure the lighting is good. Last year, unfortunately, I had a candidate who had the sun behind them, so I just could not see their face at all throughout the entire interview. And unfortunately, that's what I remember from that interview. So just always kind of make sure you're putting yourself in the best light possible as you're going through this.
Perfect. Thank you, Justin. Rose?
Actually, Justin, now that you say that, I remember that candidate. We had them too as well, and all I could remember was the sun. So it's very impressionable when those things happen. So in addition to the research and those pieces, is I like when people highlight something from either our website or a social media that we posted to just kind of get a little bit immersed in our world before they just get the whole taste of it. So that part's nice, but really best advice I can give is just be yourself and be honest and transparent about what you want. Because if you try to sugarcoat it or try to be someone that you're not, it might not be a great experience for both folks involved, whether it's the institution or yourself as the intern. So just being open, transparent, being yourself, because I feel like everything will fall into place and it will work out for wherever you end up, hopefully. So yeah, just let us know what experience you're looking for, what you're looking to learn, and just being open for those pieces. So
Thank you. Lorena?
Yes, so I feel like Justin and Rose covered a lot of what I would have said, but I think any other tip that I could give besides those would be to be critical of yourself. So live your life, be analyzing what is it that what is it that you're doing, how is it you're approaching it, because that will help you answer the questions that we're gonna probably ask you during the interview, right? So you've had at this point, like, I don't know, maybe 20 years of experience in your life. So then how have you approached challenges in your life? How have you resolved issues in your life? How have you, like, there's all these walls that come up in, like, or all these obstacles that sometimes we have to overcome. So analyze those, have that in your mind. So when a question comes up, you might already have the answer, but in the moment you don't think of it because you haven't really analyzed your life that much. But I'm sure you all have already experiences that you can relate to, the people that are interviewing you that, usually apply. Because like I usually say, we're not asking for somebody that's going to help us do open heart surgery. Literally what we need to do here is something that with a little bit of logic and common sense, you'll be able to figure out. So generally, like, that's how life is. So that's what I would say as a tip. Just start analyzing, how is it that you behave, approach things, resolve problems, and that can help you answer a lot of the questions.
I'm sorry, John, if I can add one more thing really quick. Just because I've heard this from other schools. One of the things I would really recommend as a candidate is to feel very confident in the dates that you provide, only because that is one of the puzzle pieces of, we have a great candidate, but maybe they can't show up for a week. Are we willing to compromise and maybe do a separate training for them, or they need to leave a little early? Obviously, not everyone can have all the dates line up perfectly. But as for us as host institutions, we obviously put those dates for certain reasons. And I would just highly recommend being honest about those dates, because if they don't work out for a program, it's not a reflection on you as a candidate being unqualified for it. It's just the programs have a specific need for people there on those dates. And so I would highly recommend talking to, your advisors or whomever about the dates that you're truly available in the summer, just because that's one of the most important things for host institutions. And please don't, kind of like Rose was saying, please don't say something inauthentic to try to get it, and then after offer day comes, then change the conversation, because it leaves a really bad taste in people's mouths, and unfortunately then that becomes something that's remembered. Sorry, that was it.
It's no worries at all, Justin. Thank you all for that perspective. We will move on to, I'm going to circle past this question and come back to the next one. So we're going to go to, what should candidates be looking for from internships they are applying to? And Rose, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I think the big thing is like when you're reading the job description, like, does it excite you? Does it get you like passionate about what you're going to be possibly doing within that role? Of course, we can't put every single bullet point of what the role might be, and it might adapt. Like I said before, I try to adapt sometimes the role a little bit to be able to explore things that the intern might be excited about or wanting to explore that they haven't yet. So I want to provide additional opportunities, but look for something that really is exciting to you. But then at the same time, look at something that's going to challenge you a little bit or diversify your professional development. So if you're doing one specific area all the time, are you getting provided opportunities in different areas? So even if it's within residence life and you love housing ops, but you haven't explored residential education, like try different things if you want to. I did, and I ended up landing where I am, and I love it. So just keep that in mind. And then don't feel like you have to go super far to get the best experience. One of the pieces of advice is when I was an intern was, oh, you have to go super far because you've only been in Massachusetts. I haven't felt that was an issue, but then again, I want to say challenge yourself and maybe go somewhere that you haven't. So just really think about your needs and what you need as a person. I know a lot of the times people try to look to others for advice, like, oh, should I go far? Should I think about what you need as a person and what you think is going to help further yourself along? And then during those interviews, ask those questions of the person interviewing you, because it's just as much an interview for you as it is for them. Ask them what they're looking for in you, and let them know what you're looking for in them. So yeah, just be honest and open.
Thank you, Rose. Lorena?
Yes, so for the candidates, what they should be looking for from the internship. So I think, again, Rose, like you're really good with your answer. So very similar, honestly, the thought about challenge yourself. I think that that's absolutely something that, like, you're in an age where you can do that, right? Like, let's explore the world. Let's see what I can do. What I cannot do, because you still, you're gonna pivot maybe and do something different. So I think that is a great advice to just see if you want to try something different, but maybe you don't. So maybe a big city, for example, Columbia, it's in New York. Maybe big city is too big, and then you're not going to set up yourself to be successful this summer if if maybe the crowds is not a place where you thrive. So I think it's just, again, like knowing a little bit about yourself, knowing how far you can go, how far you want to go. I think it's great advice to just do that. I think what you should be looking for is to see if the team that you're interviewing with is a good fit for you. I think everybody manages things a little bit differently, and I think understanding, if you're able to understand enough from the interview, then that's good. But if not, I would say, like Rose said, just ask questions, just be proactive about trying to figure out, is this the right place for me? Because let me tell you, you're gonna be there for at least here in Colombia, at least like 13 weeks. So you better like it, and you better want to be here. So we try to do our best to make it comfortable, to make it nice, to make it fun, in a learning experience. But at the same time, we do require a lot of work from the group that is going to be here. Justin and I, when we're here, we're working. When we're here, we're working. So that's the expectation for everyone that comes in. So you have to understand, like, what are you looking for? Do you want a busy summer, or do you want it to be a more like quiet, something that that you maybe it's just an office job? Like, what is it that you really want to do, and what you're gonna be doing well? That's what you should be looking for, something that you're going to do well. Otherwise, it's not going to work for you. It's not going to work for the entity that you're going to go work for. It has to work for both. So make sure that you, again, we go back to being transparent about what it is that you want, and that will help you make a decision, I think.
Thank you, Lorena. Justin?
Yeah, I mean, they really covered all the bases. You know, while Lorena was speaking, I was glad she couldn't see my calendar for all the time I blocked off for building Legos. So, you know, thank you, our IT team. You know, I think kind of what I'm going to echo a little bit, you know, it's about finding the right fit in terms of people. Obviously, offices have a lot of people, sometimes a lot of personalities, and uh, and so it's about just trying to make sure that you can have an enjoyable experience while you're there. And I think that um, the you know, the benefit is that you're able to kind of, if you are uncomfortable doing something, but you want to challenge yourself, you're at the point where you're able to do that. Um, I don't think there is, you know, I'm hoping there is not a host institution that is not willing to support people as they try to learn and build. We've had candidates who enjoyed the experience and said, you know, I am going to focus more on res life, but what I really learned here is about project management or kind of leading teams during certain things when it comes to housing or kind of campus events. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I think, you know, echoing what they said of just understanding kind of what you want to get out of it. Is the institution going to be the right fit for you because you are dedicating your time to that institution, you know, for the summer, depending on the length of the programs. And um, and feeling like you are going to take the right next step. Even if it's a little uncomfortable, just that you feel like you're going to be able to be comfortable to learn and grow at that institution.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. Our final question that we have for today is how should candidates prioritize which interviews they should accept or not accept? And Justin will go right back to you.
Oh, brilliant. No, I think, you know, it I think sometimes candidates will need a first round interview just to kind of be able to ask those questions that maybe you can't get from the, you know, from the job description. Because you know, whenever the applications open up, it's kind of like a beehive of activity from a lot of host institutions of working to try to go through resumes, find people. Maybe we don't get to all the messages that come in at that time. So if you need a first round interview to really kind of understand if this is something you feel comfortable with. Um, but I would say, you know, as a candidate, find the institutions that or programs that you really want to go for and make sure that those interviews kind of get prioritized. And kind of, you know, because it's a little bit like hedging bets to a degree, right? It's a matching program of I really want to go for this program. They may not take me. Let me look at this other really good program. But just kind of feeling comfortable with the ones that you're really going for. Um, and um, and it might be something where it doesn't work out. If you really don't feel comfortable with the program, you're not going to have a good experience. Kind of what was said earlier. You're really not. Please don't take a position just to have a position, because if you didn't like the interviews, if you didn't like the people behind the interviews, it's not going to change when you show up. So just make sure that you're prioritizing um, the conversations and the information that you're getting about the positions as you're going through this process. Because, you know, on our end, while we're doing ACUHO-I interviews, we have room selection going on. Naturally, for you as students, you have classes and finals and other things going on. So just make sure you feel comfortable moving through the process.
Thank you, Justin. Lorena?
Okay, so for me, I think I'm just gonna say like a personal choice. This is what I would do if I was one of you. So how I prioritize. So I need practice. So I would choose an institution or something that, you know, I could practice the interview with. Let me see what they ask. Let me see how they approach this. So I can practice, but I'm not like really, you know, this is not the place. And maybe the place I want to go, maybe like, you know, something that's like in between. I think it's what I would do just to practice, just see how it feels, what kind of questions, and maybe that would spark other questions that I could ask. And then I would go for like those institutions that I really want to go for the summer. And then once I have a little practice, I would just go in, and I feel like those interviews, it would make me feel more comfortable now that I had a little bit of practice run. But that, I don't know, that is just a strategy that I would do if I was one of you.
Thank you, Lorena. Rose?
For me, I would say take the interview, but again, be transparent during that interview about what you want. But you know, these descriptions do get put out there, but it's not the all encompassing of everything that you might be doing, or the institution could, like for us, we adapt if there's something similar to what we're doing, but somebody wants to explore a different opportunity. You know, we try to adapt to candidates sometimes, or interns sometimes. So I would just say, you know, think about those pieces of just taking it and then just being transparent if it's not going to work out and if you don't feel like it's going to land you where you want to be. But also think about where you want to be and envision how that job and the description can end up on your resume, and how, again, it can diversify your professional experience and then development as well. Because again, you know, I got told in the past that, you know, if you want to be in residence life, and you only want to do one specific thing, only take jobs, only take internships in that tiny one functional area. For me, I like seeing a diverse background of different things that they've explored or tried to come about, because I feel like it gives a wider lens of different experiences and things that folks can bring to the table. So don't feel like you have to shoehorn yourself into one area, and again, open yourself up to different challenges and experiences that you could have. So for me, it's take the interview. I'm not sure if all institutions would feel that way, considering, you know, we only have so much time and stuff. But, you know, if you do get that interview, I would say take it and then ask the questions and really be strategic about the questions you ask, and don't Google what questions should I ask in an interview. Like, actually think about like those strategic questions of, okay, how am I going to get this answered? How is this going to, you know, relate to me? How is it going to relate to them? How am I going to get the information that I'm looking for to make sure I get the experience I'm looking for? So I would say weigh your pros and cons too of what you're looking for and see if it matches up to the job as well.
Perfect. Thank you to our panelists for answering those questions for us. What we are about to do is move into our Q&A section. So this is an opportunity for anybody in this webinar right now to ask any questions you might have for any of our panelists. Panelists, what I'll ask of you is I will read out the question, and then if one of you just wants to jump in and answer it, that'll work perfectly fine for me. And then once there's silence, I will ask the next question. So for anybody who wants to ask a question, just raise your hand and I will call on you. Please introduce yourself. And you can also send your question in the chat and I will try my best to get to it. So whoever would like to ask the first question, please feel free to. This is the fun, awkward silence time where you wait for questions and wonder if any are going to come. Perfect. I see a hand raise. You can use the hand raise feature that is on Zoom, but I believe I saw a hand raise from Olympia and Orly's video.
Yeah, can you hear me? So, hello
Yes.
everyone, my name is Orly. I'm from William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. I'm interested to hear more about like the onboarding process. I know that every institution has a different onboarding component, and like what recommendation would you give to someone that's interning and, you know, has to train in a high-paced environment? Like what advice would you give that intern?
I can go first. Anyone, please feel free to join me because I'll probably be a bit wrong. I think you just need to, I think the first thing to do is, you know, if you're showing up in a fast-paced environment, the first thing I always tell people, you're gonna make mistakes. That's fine. You know, that is expected as part of the role. So the first thing is to not be too hard on yourself when a mistake happens, because that then kind of shuts down the rest of either that day for you or your time there, because it's easy to get lost in those thoughts. The second thing is, you know, communication. What do you, if you're having a hard time understanding something, you know, what do you need help with so that additional support can be provided? We talk about it here. Obviously, as a university, there are a lot of different departments that we work with. And just because we work with this team when it comes to bathroom issues in this building does not mean we work with the same team in another building. And it's not your job to understand that. It's our job, but it's our job to help you understand how we work to help set everything up for success. And so just make sure to communicate your needs as you're learning, and ask for what the roadmap is for the onboarding. You know, what are kind of the expectations that people have, that the team will have of you? and that way you're able to better communicate what your needs are, what your questions are, so that you can feel comfortable. Because regardless of how fast-paced the institution is, that first week when you show up, it's kind of, you feel nervous. There are the butterflies because you want to make a good impression, but then you have to take in all this information and you're in a different city, and like it can feel like a lot, but just take that step back and make sure to ask for what you need, is what I would say.
Yeah, and just to add to that piece, we're just as excited to have you as you are to be with us. So know that we're very just excited. Additionally, ask questions. I always say if one of my supervisees isn't asking me questions, I'm very concerned. So if they're just by themselves and they take it, like, I'm not perfect with how I explain things or train or do anything. I know I can mess up and fumble all the time. So asking me questions, trying to figure things out together, and just giving yourself the grace that the onboarding process will be quick, but we're here to work with you to make sure you're successful in that role. We want to see you flourish and thrive. So just know that we'll work with you. And again, as Justin said, that advocacy piece of just communicating and let us know what you need.
Thank you all. Dana?
Hi, yes, thank you for saying my name well. Oh gosh. I do want to know when it comes to, because some of the positions do vary, but for like some of the positions that has to do with on-call, I guess, for you particularly, do you stay on campus with us or do you also leave for the 9 to 5? That's my question.
I can take that one. So, for example, here at Columbia, we do have the ACUHO-I managers that we hire to be on call. The schedule, it's basically to answer questions about, let's say, an assignment. Let's say somebody needs an additional room or like they need to go somewhere else. So just to help us manage that, there's a no guest policy, for example, here in the at Columbia, because New York City and a lot of other things. So at times there will be somebody trying to get a guest in, but we're trying to communicate to the coordinators to make sure that they pass this information along. We're trying to make that effort. We're putting signage. So there will be some questions that come up that the on-call team can help with. We don't live on campus. The Columbia Housing team does not live on campus. We all live throughout New York City. So or New Jersey, like Justin. The on-call team, if they're able to answer the question, of course, they can go ahead and do that. If they're not able to answer the question, they have to let us know. Like Justin said, be an advocate for yourself as well. Like, if you're able to help. But if you cannot, you have to make sure that you reach out to one of us to help you provide that support, to allow you to give the answer to the participant, the coordinator, whoever it is that needs it. Our cell phones are available. We get calls. In operations, we used to getting calls at all times. So it's not a problem for us to pick up the call over the summertime at any time if somebody needs help with.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And if I can just add to that really quick, just about Columbia, the other thing that we have here is we have a 24/7 hospitality desk. And so that desk is stationed at all times of day, 7 days a week. So it's one of those things where if a situation arises, they are also regularly available to help. So there are multiple layers of support for the team for the summer.
Thank
And
you.
I'll just say that none of our positions have an on-call experience. So that might be a selling point for you, or it might be something that you're looking for experience if you've never had it. But if this is your first time ever on call, don't be too nervous. Again, as Justin said, there's usually people to support you and higher ups to be able to ask questions of if you don't know the answer.
Perfect. Thank you all. Charlotte.
Okay, I have two questions. I'm Charlotte from University of Central Arkansas. My question is, how do the officials accommodate emergencies and like in a situation whereby the candidate has an emergency to attend to that is out of the schedules of the person, and how do they also accommodate mistakes? Because the intent person may be either having little or no knowledge about housing or any job assigned to the person, but want to learn more about it. So in the process, there may be mistakes. How do they accommodate mistakes and emergencies?
Yeah, I can start. In terms of accommodating an emergency is an emergency, right? It's you know, from our perspective at Columbia, I mean, obviously, if an emergency comes up, it is about providing the support and resources necessary for that emergency. Um, so there's essentially it's a conversation about understanding what's going on just to provide support, understand what needs to take place, so that then the student is able to focus on that because we do not want to be a burden while that is taking place. In terms of mistakes, again, from my perspective, mistakes are going to happen. That first week, especially, it is not about achieving perfection. It is just about kind of understanding the workplace, the work, the team, all of those different components. And so that's why we are here to provide support, training, and constant guidance throughout the process. You know, for us, it's about conference housing, so not all conference groups will be the same. And to the earlier conversation, just about communication and advocacy, feeling comfortable asking questions to try to prevent mistakes. If they happen, just own up to the mistake so that we can find a resolution. It is not about you know, the difference between good and awful. It's the difference between how can we make sure we set everyone up for success who is potentially here that does not want to be successful. And so that's my perspective when it comes to that.
I can add on a little bit on this. So I feel like there's two types of mistakes. The careless mistake and then the mistake that happened just because, you know, you could not have understood or you did not know something. So I think if that's what also communication and a lot of questioning comes in, right? So how did this happen? What happened? So if you tell me I had these two options and the pros and the cons of option one are these, the pros and the cons of option two are these. So because of that, I went with option one. I can defend that all the way through. I can understand that you went through a logical process here of thinking about the problem. You looked at the options and you went with the option that looked at the most favorable one. I can defend that all day long. If you tell me I saw something, I didn't do anything because I don't know, no, I didn't want to ask. So then it's a different type of mistake. If or just that something happened because there was no intention there to do anything about it, then that's a different kind of mistake. So I think that's why also the questioning comes from our side. So explain what it is that happened, like how, walk me through, make me visualize it. If I'm not there, you should be able to tell me something in a way that I can visualize exactly what happened in that moment. And once we do that, then we can go through it, right? So again, if you made a logical decision and you looked at the options, then that's something we can both learn from that, because that means that there's something, vulnerability there that we either did not see and did not prepare you for. So that means that we're vulnerable and we need to fix that in that moment. So those mistakes typically help us understand what needs to change, what needs to happen, what we need to do better on. So typically mistakes are not a bad thing. Just the careless mistakes are a bad thing. That shows that there's no intention, that nobody was paying attention, that they did not care. So I think that is understanding like the type of mistake that it is what's going to help us, you know, provide the feedback or move from there.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. I'm going to jump into the chat to ask one of the questions I was asked in there. And thank you to Rose, who has been very diligent about actually answering those questions. I appreciate that. So from a question from Ernest is, does having a background in residence life give you a better chance than those in other functional areas?
I think it depends on the role. I mean, as we've discussed, our institution is very different. Res Life and housing is very segmented here. And so for us, you know, there is nothing negative about not having a Res Life background. We're more focused on trying to find the candidates who are going to enjoy their time here, want to learn while they're here, and be able to really gather experience that they may not be getting or have been able to find before.
Perfect. Thank you all. Our next question, Celia.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm zooming in from the University of Rhode Island. I recognize that every institution is different, but I'm curious to learn more about what the integration of ACUHO-I interns with full-time faculty and staff looks like, especially with the transition to a new environment.
I guess I can take this one. So for us, so we're trying something different this time around. We are actually going to have virtual training sessions prior to ACUHO-I interns coming in, because like I said, it's just a quick learning experience, and I felt like we didn't, and also not everybody arrived exactly on the same day. So staggering the training, like, and really lost track of who knew what at some point at the beginning. So it got a little bit hectic. So we want to create and find times at least to have the 4 sessions, 4 training sessions prior to interns coming in. And the reason being is because within housing, we have our operations team, we have our guest services team, the 24/7 team that's at the desk, and we have the assignments team. So we want interns to be able to meet all the areas of housing and get an understanding of what it is that we do, and already put their faces to their names, or the people that you will be interacting with within Columbia Housing for the summertime. So that's what we're trying to do, to make sure that we can integrate, and like by the time the interns arrive, they at least have an idea of who is it that they're going to be working with, what is it that you'll be doing, the expectations, and understanding of Columbia Housing, at least from a very high level.
Perfect. We're going to go and ask the question from Ariana.
Hi, I was just wondering, what does the application and interview process and even selection look like for people who are full-time staff and faculty members, but part-time graduate students that are interested in participating in the internship program?
So the person would be you're saying the person is a full-time employee anyways?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a full-time employee, but a part-time graduate student. But I am like a first-year grad student, and this is my first year working full-time at the university. So
is it a full 12-month position or a 9-month?
It's a 10-month position.
So you would be available for the summertime?
Yeah.
Well, that would have been a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
I worked 12 months and I can never. Okay. Anyways, for our perspective, so again, dates are very important, as folks echoed beforehand, about just being transparent about when you can actually be here versus when not, because some institutions can be flexible with them, like we can be flexible, but only to a certain extent. Like we do need somebody to be here at different points. For the experience wise of it, it's just being able to support you, because right, every candidate and intern that comes in is going to have a little bit different of needs, and so we would work with you and have conversations with you about those pieces of, hey, where are you coming from, what do you currently do, when do you need to go back, things like that, and then how you work in general, and then working with us. Yeah, so sorry, my answer is a little wishy-washy, but really we would just work with you and have those conversations before hiring to see how we can make sure we can best support you.
Thank you.
Perfect. So it looks like we have about 4 more minutes. So I'm going to try to ask the last few questions that are in the chat. I might not be able to get to all of them. So the next question we have is, how do you approach giving feedback to interns? What does the evaluation process look like? And how can an intern make the most of their feedback?
Usually for our interns, we have to provide feedback, whether it's through forms for a class or really just kind of a letter to their advisor. And so what we do is, we provide feedback in real time, just to kind of sit down, make sure that, the arrow is still moving forward. But then naturally we'll sit down, sometimes weekly, sometimes every other week, just to kind of go into more detail about a couple of things. Naturally though, if the student wants to sit down to get feedback about something they just experienced, see if they could have approached it differently, that can happen immediately. And I think as a student, just understanding that when we're providing feedback, it's to be constructive. It's to help you set up for success in the long term, because of course we may be explaining something that in the short term seems very minuscule, but then you get your first job after school and you realize this is what they were talking about, this is why they were stressing it. And so, I would also just view it in the long term of just understanding how we're trying to set you up for success, both for the summer and for your career.
Perfect. And then our final question from the chat is, do you have specific expectations for international students in communication during the interview process? Even if we don't, sorry, the little chat bubble's popping up, so I can't read that next word, but, and then it says sponsorships or any concerns about hiring us that we could address in our applications.
Yeah, Rose and I both responded to this. It's just about it's about being upfront if it affects the dates, like availability. Just communicating that during the interview process, because I know sometimes students need to return to their home country to be able to renew visas and stuff. A former student of ours actually just had to go finish that process, and they were in their home country for 3.5 weeks. So obviously that's a chunk of time that you should communicate. But at the same time, if you have concerns, feel free to raise them, during the interview process to understand what the support looks like. I mentioned that last year, actually, a majority of our interns were international students. And during the onboarding process and everything, we worked with them to get them the proper paperwork, not only to their institution, but to reflect that they were being hired here, payment processes and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, that looks like that's all the time that we have today. I would like to give a big thank you to our panelists for taking time out of their busy schedules to be here today. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you all enjoyed our webinar today, and I'm going to pass it back to Spencer in case he has any last minute things.
Sure. And if you'd be so kind in the chat, just say thanks to our panelists. We really appreciate them sharing their time and their experiences with us. Well, we are to the very exciting part of the internship program moving forward as communication opens up with host sites in 6 minutes. There's, look for that envelope function in the internship portal to be able to see messages and respond to those. And at all times at any point when you're working with ACUHO-I, whether it's in the internship program or something else, in the lower right-hand corner of all our web pages is a purple chat box. That is your direct line to us for real-time chat with real people. It's not AI, just disclaimer there. So it's actually humans like myself typing back to you in that purple chat box. So if you've got a question or you run into a snag, please reach out. We'll continue to send out messages in the internship program just to give you updates, and we're rooting for everyone here. We want hosts to find interns. We want interns to find great host sites and experiences for the summer. And we're here to work with all y'all. So without further ado, thank you again. And that is our session for today.